called ESLint. So ESLint is language analysis tool of ECMA. What is this ESLint is? It will set the rules for JavaScript. So when you are writing JavaScript programs, in that program, how the declaration should be, what should be the capitalization for declarations, all such rules you can configure. That is done by using ESLint. You have to set up this ESLint in JavaScript, but you will not see much people using ESLint in general, but at large scale projects we need it. Actually, you will have a separate ESLint. This is ESLint. So it is the language analysis tool for JavaScript. So it is the language analysis tool for JavaScript. That means when you are using JavaScript, you have to use this tool. And you see, it is officially sponsored by Google Chrome browser. So technically, here you can set up this ESLint in a project. ESLint, not only those rules, I told you, you remembered, if you learned JavaScript modules, there are so many module system like CommonJS, RequireJS, so UMD, AMD, we discussed about module system. Which module system JavaScript have to use? How to change the module system? That is also dependent on this location, ESLint. ESLint is responsible for configuring all those details. Which module system you have to use, which version you have to use, what standards you have to follow, everything you can manage by using ESLint. Similarly, how we set up this ESLint is, so we have to run the command. So here we have JavaScript rules are configured by using ESLint. So which is a language analysis tool. So you have to npm init @ESLint/config. You have to run this command. So you have to run this command in your project. So run in project. Which project? The project which is using JavaScript. So when you run this, it will ask a series of questions. Series of questions like which version JavaScript you want to use, which module system you want to use, what rules you want to define, everything it will ask step by step. You can even modify the rules after adding, just like package.json. So that is JavaScript. But you will not see this regularly in any JavaScript projects every time. Many people even don't know about this till now, right? That there is an ESLint for rules and all. You will never see much of this in normal projects, but at large scale they use it compulsory. So you will never see this in even React or other technologies where they are using JavaScript. But when you are using TypeScript, because TypeScript is a strictly typed language. It mandatory requires in every TypeScript project, the rules are mandatory. So that is the reason if you are using a TypeScript project, so the rules are defined like this. How we define that? So here we will give a simple point. Create a TypeScript project. So first, so add a new physical path for project. Some I given as TypeScript. After that, so open in Visual Studio Code. Then run the following command in terminal. So what is the command you have to run in terminal for TypeScript is you have to use the command here tsc init. We have to use the command tsc initialize. This is TypeScript initialization. tsc init is the command we have to use. tsc -init, right? So this is the tsc TypeScript tsc -init. That is the command. Now what it is going to do is it generates TypeScript configuration file. So, and the file is tsconfig.json. It will generate TypeScript configuration file, which is tsconfig.json. So it is going to generate this tsconfig.json file. So this is the file where all the TypeScript related rules are defined. You can see here the TypeScript configuration file. When I run ts init, automatically the TypeScript configuration file is generated. You see it is there. So every project which is using TypeScript as a language will have this file. So in your React project also extra you will find this file. Means when you create a React application with the TypeScript as language, you will have public src package JSON, all are same, no change. One extra file will come, that is tsconfig.json. Actually earlier, just 4 or 5 years back, it used to have a tslint also, but now it is removed from the repository. There is no tslint. 5-7 years back, Angular, React, all these projects used to have tslint.json. But now this tslint is removed. It is managed by only tsconfig. There is no tslint anymore. But if it is a 8-10 years old project you are working, you will see an extra file tslint. That is a language analysis one. But in the modern versions and the applications, everything is defined in only one file, that is tsconfig. Earlier we used to have two files, tsconfig and tslint. Now there is no tslint. You have tsconfig. You see now in this tsconfig, so many rules are there. But all the rules are commented. So which rules you want, you can uncomment that and you can enable with your own features. Already you see compiler options. It is using ES 2016. That means it is translating into ES 6. You can change this to 2015, 2018, 2017, anything. Which target version? And see the module system. It is using CommonJS as module system. We can change this. We can change to UMD, AMD, depending on different module systems. So lot of other rules will be there. Gradually you will see them, how to use some important rules once we start using it. And see, by default strict mode is on. By default strict mode is on. So that means implicitly it is strict. Implicitly it is in strict. Actually you don't set up this file, no problem, TypeScript will work. But TypeScript have by default some rules which you don't know what rules it is using. So how do we see the rules? How do we modify the rules? Then you have to use this tsconfig, right? Okay, once this is present, once you added this, now directly we can start working with TypeScript programs. First, as I told you yesterday, we are adding a new file here. Let's give the name index.ts. TypeScript files will have extension .ts. And TypeScript can use everything of JavaScript. Whatever is there in JavaScript, TypeScript can use. But in TypeScript, we prefer the use of TypeScript standards so that we can reduce the issues of JavaScript. So here we are writing simple program. Don't use any DOM methods. If you use DOM methods, again you have to use a HTML page. In that you have to test. Without DOM methods, I am defining some console.log, say welcome to TypeScript. Now this TypeScript cannot directly run anywhere. You written in TypeScript, it need to be translated into JavaScript. So open the terminal, and in the terminal you have to run the command. So tsc index.ts. You know, tsc is a TypeScript standalone compiler which translates this into JavaScript. And you see now automatically index.js will be added here. It will add index.js, and whatever the JavaScript code it is required for TypeScript, it will generate. You don't try to understand what is generated in JavaScript, because implicitly it is converted and generated. So many features you cannot see physically changing, but they are changed. So now what we have to do, we have to run the JavaScript program node index.js. Node index.js, it will run the program and show you the output here. This is the basic of TypeScript. Now let's see the language. So we are not using in any HTML page. Actually, if you want to use in HTML page, so see, if I write here alert, every time you do modification, you have to compile. So I am changing to alert. Now I have to compile this. First compile tsc index.ts. After compiling, now I try to run this node index.js. It is not suitable to run here. Now it shows error, alert is not defined. Obviously not defined. How you can run an alert in a console, right? That you need in a browser. Alert belongs to window. It belongs to JavaScript window object. Then how do you test this? You add a HTML page. In that HTML page, you link the JavaScript file and you can see the output. But that is not our job now. So we are just learning the language. Then we will use all console related interactions only. So don't use any DOM methods here. So what you have to do? So add a new file already yesterday given index.ts. It have console.log. So welcome to TypeScript. After that, compile from terminal tsc index.ts. So run from terminal, that is tsc node index.js. So the TypeScript program is translated into JavaScript and you have to run that. So let's see now what are the language basics of TypeScript. So here first point is, so we have variables and data types. Variables and data types of TypeScript. So what is the difference here? Actually, here, when compared to JavaScript, so first point you should know is TypeScript is strongly typed. JavaScript is not a strongly typed language. TypeScript is a strongly typed language. So you have to define data type for variables. So variable declaration, assignment and initialization all are same as JavaScript. Only the point is you have to define the data type. So syntactically, that means what are the keywords used? Var, let, another one is const. Declaring variables is done by using same var, let and const. TypeScript variable declaration is same. Only the point is when you declare variable, so var variable name, it should have a colon and data type. You have to mention data type. You have to mention data type. In JavaScript, we don't mention the data type. And you have to define the data type here. So I am not explaining what is var, let, const, you already know. I'm just explaining how in TypeScript we write. So it is a variable name and a data type. Actually, so here data types all are same. as JavaScript. Data types all are same as JavaScript. That means primitive types, non-primitive types, whatever you have, they are same. So that means both primitive types and non-primitive types. Both primitive and non-primitive types are same. We will see first here how do we define the primitive types. So let's see here configuring primitive types. I will show a point here. How do we configure the primitive types? How do you configure the primitive types? Some let, var, anything. So here name, suppose say username, it is a string. So let some age, it is a number, like that. So some let, some subscribed. So this is a boolean. Like this, we can configure the primitive type. So let some mobile, it is a null. So let email, it is like undefined. Like this, you can configure the primitive types. You know all the primitive types of JavaScript. What are the primitive types? Number, string, boolean, null, undefined, begin, and a symbol. These are all the primitive types. So you can configure the type. So here important is if type is not defined for variable, then the default is any type. The default is any type. Actually, any is the root for all data types. It is the root for all data types. If you don't define the data type, it is any type. However, one interesting point is, however, TypeScript supports TypeScript supports type inference. It supports type inference. It supports type inference. What is the advantage of this type inference is the data type is determined and configured for a variable according to the value initialized. According to the value initialized. That is called type inference. So if you don't mention the data type, by default it is any type. But one advantage is TypeScript supports type inference, which means you declared let age and equal to some 22, like this you mentioned. Automatically now age becomes a number fixed. It becomes a number fixed. Later into the age, you are sending some text. This is invalid. It will not allow. So you think that I haven't mentioned data type. You haven't mentioned data type, but once you initialize any value, according to the value you initialized, it will fix the type. So it will say that, okay, this is number now. But remember, that is only initialized according to the value initialized, not assigned. For example, if you defined let age, now you are not initializing a value. Now what is age? Age is any. Into the age you stored 22. Now age is what? Number. Now into the age you entered alphabet. Now it will change to string, not invalid. It will allow anything. So type inference is not about assignment, it is about initialize. While allocating memory itself, you mentioned a value, then it is fixed. After allocating memory, you are sending different values, you can send different values. Any type it can handle, but it cannot handle any type once the value is initialized. That is the reason in the modern generation of TypeScript, wherever people use in Angular or React, they don't mention data type. Even they don't mention data type, so it will work because they initialize the values. They initialize 0, empty string, boolean, false, like that. If they are not initializing, it is important to mention the type. Actually, in TypeScript rules, we can remove that. In TypeScript rules, we can say that without uh, defining data type also, you can declare a variable. But without defining data type, if you declare variable, then by default, what is its type? Any. Any is the type. So see here. So we are using some let, some name, and it is a string type, is equal to some value. I am storing some value. And into that name, later if I send some number, it is not allowed. Because name, it says number is not assignable because its type is string. So it is strongly typed. If you don't mention the data type, then it is allowed. Into the name, you can store some TV. Into the name, you can store boolean. Because its data type is currently what? Any. You can see the name type is any. Okay, you initialize this to string, then the first and last not allowed. Because you initialized a string, now this is fixed to string. This is type inference. That is the type inference. That means now name is what type? String. So it depends on initializing value. So if you don't initialize, it is any type. You can store any kind of value. But you initialize, then it is fixed to that particular type. So while working with TypeScript, one of important point is about the type inference. Type inference. Another important point is actually TypeScript supports union of types. TypeScript supports union of types. It is going to support union of types. Here, why you need a union of types? What is the concept of union of types is? For example, why you need the union of types? You see, suppose I am using a prompt. Tell me what is the result of prompt? What is the result of confirm? Confirm result is what confirm returns? Confirm returns a boolean, true or false. It is fixed. Means it is returning which type? It is returning which type? Boolean. What prompt will return? What prompt will return? Prompt will return a string or it will return a null. Now how you will send data type? It returns 2. Prompt is going to return 2. You know, prompt when cancelled, it will return null or undefined. Then how you will declare a variable which can handle 2 data types? That is what union of types. Union of types. TypeScript supports union of types. That means now what you can do? You can define so a variable. So that means some value, and its data type can be number or string or boolean, like that. You can add any number. A pipe symbol is used for union. Now into this you can store a number or a string or a boolean. So that is union of types. That's very much required everywhere. Why? Because many times in JavaScript, if compile time value is expected, then it will use undefined. If runtime value is expected, it uses null. And if value is not passed, it will return null. If it is passed, it will return the value. That means it cannot be always string, it cannot be always null. It should change. So that you can define by using union. Now you see here, we are defining. So let value. So value is a string type or it is a number. Now what happens is, into the value you are storing a string. It is allowed to store a string. Into the value you stored a number, that is also allowed. Into the value you stored a boolean, true or false, this is not allowed, because it is defined for these two. Now here, this is assigning the value. Okay, let's initialize the value equal to some 10. We are initializing the value as 10. We can initialize a string because it is supporting both. Now I initialized the value as 10. After that, into that I am passing a string. It is also allowed, because it doesn't matter when you define the data type. It is responsible for handling both types. Even you initialize, it is not going to fix that for number only, because you already mentioned the data type. Type inference will work only when the data type is not defined. When the data type is not defined. So if you mention the data type, then it will not use any type inference. It is able to handle both string as well as number. So this is the basic point here. So here type inference is used only when the data type is not defined. The union allows multiple values, allows values to initialize or assign. values to initialize or assign. So that is the union of type here. So when you are declaring the variables, you have to mention the data type. And while you are defining the data type, this is important. For example, see here, suppose LET, some username is equal to, so here we have is equal to prompt. I'm using prompt. So enter name. And you can see here, when you define this, this is string or null. Automatically it defines the union because it knows. So actually, how you configure that, you have to use either string or as what? Null. But you don't need to do that in the modern TypeScript, because in the modern TypeScript, what happens is you initialize anything. According to that, it will determine the type and fix the type. It is little intelligent enough. This is not there up to TypeScript 4 version. Up to TypeScript 4 version, you have to mandatorily mention the type. But TypeScript 4 and higher versions have introduced some new features which can recognize the JavaScript types, and based on that, it can fix the type. So this is the union of types. You can have union. Why you need a union? You understood the point. That means we are expecting two different values to come. So then you have to configure a union of type. So how to declare a number, a string, a boolean, a null, or undefined? That is final. We know that. Now let's see here how the non-primitive types will be handled. This is configuring what type? Primitive. Let's say configuring non-primitive types. So how you configure the non-primitive types? How you define the non-primitive types? Now first, in the non-primitive types, what you have? In the non-primitive types, we have an array, we have an object, we have like map, set, all these are there. Set is obsolete now. Means it is no longer in use. We don't prefer this use anymore. But still, sometimes people ask what is set, what is this, and they are outdated, no more better to use. So, and here, not only configuring non-primitive types, not non-primitive, only these, they are not non-primitive, but we are defining. So how you define a date? How do you define a regular expression? Regular expressions. So in TypeScript, how do you define dates? How do you define regular expressions, arrays, maps, objects? How you declare them? This is important. Actually, here, so in the array type, we will see TypeScript array. What is about JavaScript array? JavaScript array, you know, purpose of array already you learned. Arrays are used for reducing overhead and complexities. You learned about arrays. In JavaScript, array can handle any type of value. It can handle any type of value. In TypeScript, it have both behaviors. In TypeScript, it have both behaviors. So array is used to reduce overhead and complexity. That is the main thing you learned in JavaScript. But the point is, TypeScript array TypeScript array can be configured for various types or same type. TypeScript array can be configured for various types or same type. Array can be configured for various types or same type. Actually, in JavaScript, array can handle any type, various types of values. But in general, other languages, it can handle data type, similar type. But here, TypeScript have both behaviors. It have the behavior of various types as same type. That means usually we define like this. So LET categories is a string type array. That's how we declare. And you can initialize the meta character, or LET categories is a string type array as new array constructor you can use. You know the differences between them. One is continuous memory, another one is discrete memory. Array constructors, how you use. So now these are not like JavaScript. They will not allow different types of value. This will allow only string. Suppose you say LET some sales, it is a number type array, then it can handle only numeric values. Number type, string type, boolean type. And now the point is, if you define so values as any type array, you define any type array, then it can handle various types. So can handle various types. It can handle various types. Actually, this is called as tuple. It is called as a tuple. Tuple is a collection of various types of values. It is a collection of various types of values. But here one interesting point is there. So the interesting point here is if you initialize values using array constructor, if you initialize values using array constructor, it will not allow a tuple. So tuple is allowed only initialization. Tuple allows actually, yeah. Tuple allows only initialization with the meta character. Meta character is the square brace. Tuple allows only initialization. So, and with meta character. Only initialization with meta character. Here, one important point is that, so what is this means? I will show you one concept actually. That means, so even here, suppose we say suppose we are using let some values is a string type array. Then in that you can store only string. You try to store a number, it is not allowed, right? It is only string type. Okay, if I want to allow any type of value, then what you do, you mention this as what type? Any. Then it can handle any type of value. Now the point is, even you define any type, initialization of different types is not allowed with array constructor. With array constructor, it will not allow. That means you see now in the array constructor, I am initializing the values. Initializing the values 10. Okay. What is the first value initialized? 10, which is what type? Number type. Now all should be number. If you try to initialize a string, it's not allowed. Even when the data type is any, initializing of different types of values is not allowed with a constructor. That is the reason tuple is considered only with meta character. Tuple is considered only with meta character. Array constructor cannot give a tuple. When you declare an array, remember this is initializing a tuple. Assignment will allow. Initializing will not allow. That means now what is the data type of values? The data type of values, even you mention any type, it will accept only number. That means all must be number type. So 20, 30, anything. These items are number type now. But see the interesting here. I changed this data type to a string type. Then these items must be all what type? It is number is not assignable. Now all should be what type? String type. That means now what is the concept about this? All are string type. What is the concept of this? Even you mention data type as any, you cannot initialize any type of value using a array constructor. Remember, only initializing, assignment you can do. That means, for example, now I am not initializing. I say values of 0 is equal to 10. Values of 1 is equal to A. It's okay. It's okay. Assignment is allowed. Only initialization is not allowed. Initialization is not allowed. That means array constructor will not allow to initialize different types of values even when the data type is any. Even when the data type is any. Initializing can be done only through this. That is what the given here. You can initialize values using, if you initialize values using array constructor, it will not allow a tuple. Tuple means it will not allow different types. Different types. So you, I will just give a, means in more clarity way, you cannot initialize different types of values into array constructor even if the data type is configured as any. As any. However, uh, however, you can assign different values. However, you can assign different values. So array constructor sets the data type according to the first value type. According to the first value type, you initialize into constructor. According to the first value type, you initialize it into constructor. So syntax. So let any values is any type array is equal to array. So 10. Then all are what type? Number. So let some values is any type. So new array, if it is string, then all are what type? String. I'll just give like this. Numbers array, string array, like that. However, assignment can be different. So another syntax here, let values is any type into the 10, 20, A. This is allowed. That is allowed. So let values any type array is equal to new array. After that, into the values 0, you stored A. Values 1, you stored 10. This is also valid. This is also valid. Only initialization is not allowed. So no need to explain what is array. You know that. Only the point is how TypeScript handles it, how you declare it, how you assign values into it, how you initialize the values. These are important. So array, meta characters, and array construct. Here, so TypeScript supports union of types for array. TypeScript supports union of types for array. Array for array also union is supported. But here one important point is there. So you cannot misunderstand that union here. It allows union of types, but you cannot misunderstand the union of types. What is that misunderstanding about union of type is? For example, here we say let values is a string type array. It is a string type array, or it is a number type array. It is a string or number type arrays we are having. Now the key point is here, if it is a string or number type array, into that, what are the values you can initialize? I initialized 10. I initialized A. It's not allowed. What does union means? Either all string or all number. It doesn't mean a mixture of values. It doesn't mean. That's what the misunderstanding is. Right? People think like I can store a number or a string. No, either all numbers or all string. Initializing. Now you see here, into that we are assigning So values of 0 is a 10. Values of 1 is equal to a string. That is allowed. Initializing is not allowed. So assignment is allowed. That means you cannot initialize. So different types of values in a union. But you can assign different types of values in a union. Initialization must be all number or all string. So union allows assignment of different types of values. This is important. So here union of types for array, syntactically it will be like this. LET values is a number type array or a string type array. So here you say 10 and you say A, this is invalid. That is invalid. So, but LET values is a number type array or a string type array, and into that values you assign. So 0 is equal to 10, values of 1 is equal to A, that is allowed. This is valid. So this is valid. And configuring the values, that is valid. So TypeScript supports union of type for array, but you cannot initialize different values. You can assign different values. So while initializing, it can be all string, all numbers. So now here, after initializing, suppose I initialize 10 and 20. If you initialize, now you cannot assign different values because it will follow type inference now. Type inference, that means the first value must be what type? Number. Second value must be also number. So that it follows the type inference mechanism. That is important. So once you initialize, it will not allow others. So another point, so we have a number type and a string type and array. Into that you pass some 10 and 20. After that, into the values of 0 you pass 10, values of 1 you pass some A. This is not allowed. This is invalid. That is invalid. Remember, anywhere in TypeScript, once a value is initialized, it is fixed for that type. At one index, number is already initialized, then you cannot assign a string because it is always number type. That is important. So initializing the values. Now, how you declare an array and how you store the data into that array. Array manipulations all are same as JavaScript. All array manipulations are same as JavaScript. So there is no change. That means all the JavaScript array methods are used here. Array manipulation means what? Reading elements, adding elements, removing elements. So we have like copying and sorting elements. So all the methods are same, no change. That means what are the methods? Index of, last index of, you have pop, push, shift, unshift, slice, splice, map, find, filter, everything same. There is no change. But how to write functions, I will tell you. We will discuss about the functions. So array manipulation, same. There is no change in the arrays. Now, that is the array type. How you manage the array types in the non-primitive types. And what about next one? So we have an TypeScript object. We have a TypeScript object. This is also a simple point. Object is a collection of key and values. So TypeScript object, actually, it is configured like this. So usually LED, I said product. I want this product to handle some details. Earlier JavaScript is not strongly typed in objects. One key can be different, another key can be different. But here you can configure the object type colon. In an object representation, you can mention what fields you want ID, what should be the data type for that number, what field you want name, what should be the data type for that string. So stock, what should be the data type? Boolean. Now in this you can store an object, and remember what object, that means this is the data type of object. That is data type of object. There are so many other methods I will tell you. This is the data type of object. This is the data type of object. That means now the object that you create, it should contain all these. It is mandatory to have all these. You cannot skip anyone. So that means you have to mention ID. ID is 1. You have to mention name. Name is some string. In the name you try to store some number, it's not allowed, because name is what type? String. So we have stock not mentioning, then it will show error. Why it will show error? It says that stock is missing. But if you think that stock is optional, it is not mandatory, then you can put a question mark. It is a null reference character. That optional fields can be defined with a question. That means it is optional. You can ignore. If you don't give that, then every field is mandatory to implement. If there are 10 fields, mandatory that you have to implement all the 10. So otherwise you can configure as optional. So this is a null reference character. You know what does question mark means? 0 or 1 occurrence. You already learned meta characters. It represents 0 or 1 occurrence. That means it can be 0 times or it can be 1 time. So usually the object type, when you configure, it is a set of key and value collection. So keys are string type and the value can be any type. So object type can be restricted by configuring keys and values, like this. So let obj, here we have key and data type. That means now they have to have the same key and data type. So here we have a stock. This is true or false. This is just an example for that. Means how you define an object. Now in this object, optional features, and in this object, how to read the keys, how to read the values, how to remove a key. So how to find whether key available or not. All object manipulations are same like JavaScript. There is no change. All the object manipulations are same. Only the declaration is different. How you configure the declaration for an object is important. There are different ways of declaration. In OOP, you can use it in a different way. I will show you. But initially, this is how we configure an object. Now, in this, you have more array of objects, map types, so date and regular expression types. That we'll see tomorrow. Right, in tomorrow's session, we can finish data types. Then the major one is OOPs here, because TypeScript is a complete OOP language. All the JavaScript features are different here now, especially when come to OOP. Some new things you will learn. That we'll see in next session. Tomorrow we'll see that. Okay, right. And we learned about TypeScript, setup TypeScript. So these three basic things we learned. So how TypeScript is different from JavaScript, which you will see now. So how TypeScript works, the basic architecture internally, and how you install TypeScript. Now we will create a project. So for TypeScript, actually for creating the project, we will maintain a separate folder for TypeScript related project. So I will create So I'm creating a new folder in my PC by name, let's say TypeScript. Okay. I created a new folder by name TypeScript. Okay. And let's open this in Visual Studio Code. So let's open the folder. We have a TypeScript here. This is the folder we created for our project. So in this, usually when you are working with the TypeScript, as I told you, we will not use it with any HTML, we will first learn the language of TypeScript, then we will use it with our React, how to integrate and do your work with it. Generally, what is the basic flow? Developers will write program in TypeScript, which will be translated into JavaScript. Then we attach that JavaScript to the HTML pages. So you can use for server side also. Means without attaching to HTML, you can directly run by using Node compiler. Yesterday I showed you the process. But while working with TypeScript project, one important point is you are writing program in TypeScript. Now it will be translated into JavaScript. Which version of JavaScript? But latest version is 22. ES Next is latest. So how we decide that the TypeScript must be translated into ES5 or ES6 or ES8? Because companies may be using different. That is one important. Not only that, when you are using JavaScript as a language, how do we set rules for JavaScript? How do we set rules for JavaScript? Set rules for JavaScript. That means, suppose anybody is writing a string. Some people will write in double quote. Some people will write in single quote. Now, in a project, several people are working and everybody has his